This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Now, prepare yourselves for a Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels special edition. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Scoundrels and Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 68.1, Scoundrels Special Edition. On this episode, we're going to be reviewing the latest episode of Resistance, the platform classic. I'm Dennis, and tonight I am joined by my friend and co-host Darth Taxus. Good evening, Taxus. How you doing?
That's me. Hey, how's everybody doing?
Unfortunately, our other friend and co-host Jay Krebs can't join us. Busy time of year with the holidays, and we're trying to get these in when we can, and just sometimes it means that all three of us aren't going to be around.
Yeah.
But she'll be with us next time. So anyways, Scoundrels, this is a full spoiler review. So if you haven't watched the platform classic, you are proceeding with this episode at your own risk. I would recommend you just hit pause and go check out the episode. It's only about 22 minutes, and come back and partake in the conversation.
Yeah.
With that out of the way, sound the spoiler, Taxus. This is a full spoiler discussion from this point on. So the episode starts out with Captain Doza summoning Yeager to his office. He wants to discuss the Platform Classic, which is a prestigious race held there on the Colossus station. Doza wants Yeager to enter, and he surprises him by revealing his brother Marcus Speedstar will be competing. Yeager is not happy about the surprise, and he initially refuses to participate. So, right out of the bat, Marcus as a name seemed a little too close to Earth, maybe? I mean, I realize we got Luke and stuff, but, you know.
Too Roman?
Yeah, you know, just kind of names as have gone on, you know, most Cassian and Jyn, you know, spelled Jyn and things like that. And, you know, Kira and stuff like that. A lot of things we're getting in Star Wars are typically, you know, not so English sounding.
Right.
So anyways, that aside, what did you think about this? You know, Kaz heard that perhaps Marcus was going to be here. It was a rumor, and he was smiling at the beginning of this episode, and Yeager's like, what are you smiling about? And then he gets upset with Kaz for not spilling the beans. Did you really think that was fair?
No, but then again, he's probably just kind of misdirected anger. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm just looking for an outlet. I'm just looking for somebody to blame for this uncomfortable situation. I mean, really, he should blame Doza, right? But you know, Kaz is a convenient outlet, so that's what he does. Plus, poor Kaz. I mean, it's like I said, he's got just that, oh, shucks, guys, you know, kind of quality about him. And he's just like, it's almost like SpongeBob, you know, which, by the way, rest in peace, Stephen Hillenburg.
Yeah, definitely.
That's unfortunate. So the SpongeBob reference just reminded me of that. But he's more like, what are you smiling about? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what it felt like. But
yeah, there's a couple instances in this episode where I felt like Kaz kind of got the short end of the stick, and I felt bad for him. But one of the things that was cool about this scene was that they mentioned that Marcus is a 3-time winner of the Five Sabers, which was the race that Claudia Gray mentioned in Bloodline. And Han Solo had a racing team that was participating in that. So that was kind of a cool tie-in to another canon source.
I completely missed that. Good job.
So, you know, Yeager refuses to participate and storms off to his garage, and he's as grumpy as ever. I can't remember a time when Yeager really hasn't been grumpy. But Marcus shows up, and Yeager really wants nothing to do with him. And he also, you know, he refuses to race again until Tam and Kaz kind of goad him into it. So, you know, Tam and Kaz are a little bit starstruck because, again, Marcus is this intergalactic famous racer, and we get to see Marcus's mechanic, who is a mountain Nikto. I found this out on the episode guide on StarWars.com.
Oh, wow.
Named Oplok. And so, you know, instead of having those kind of horns that crest out from the back of his head, he's got those fins on the side, which was different. And what did you think of the mountain Nikto?
Okay, so when he did the whole kind of thing and like had the them going out sort of like that dinosaur from Jurassic Park, you know?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, and I love that because like the natural reaction from Tam and Kaz are like, you know, like, and even I was kind of like, oh gosh, it's just so creepy, you know? But but of course, you know, Nico's like, oh good, that means he's happy, you know, or something, or likes us. And it's interesting because I didn't realize that was actually a mountain Nikto.
Nikto, yeah,
Nikto. But I was thinking, I guess it kind of saves money if you make a lot of the aliens' eyes completely black. You know what I mean? But I was thinking, wow, it does look like Nico. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, it was interesting when he showed up. I was like, I feel like I should know what that species is, or that race is, and I just didn't. And again, it came up in the episode guide that's what he was, and so naturally, I guess that was a good reason why Nico would know what he was saying, or you know, understand them.
Right.
And then we got a new R5 unit. It was R5D12 was the purple and black droid that works with Marcus, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you notice
the color schemes.
Yeah, on the back of Marcus's jacket, he had an Arabesh S. I think the Arabesh letter is Synth, which translates into the S because you know he's Speedstar.
I thought it was L'chaim.
Right. You know, and then Tam and Kaz use a bit of that reverse psychology. It's like, you know, well, until you actually race him, we're going to have to assume that he's the best racer and that he would win. And, you know, Yeager, I don't know, I'm not so sure he was falling for that, or it's just that he kind of wanted to stick to Marcus. So he, you know, decided to show up in the cantina and challenge.
Right. Yeah. So, and also kind of prove them wrong. You know what I mean? It's funny because do you ever watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No.
Okay, so if anybody does, Yeager kind of reminds me of the precinct captain. He's kind of like, that's all I got to say. If you ever go back and watch it, Dennis, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, but
sure.
But yeah, so I mean, that is when I was watching that happening, I'm thinking to myself, okay, guys, here you go. You're trying to bait him into doing it, but of course, again, you know, you got to think about the audience range for this, and so something that you and I might go, oh, here comes the trope. You know what I mean? It's something new to somebody else. So I didn't mind that so much, even though I feel like he would have seen through that a lot easier than, well, he didn't, basically. Or at least that's what I felt like.
I kind of felt like he knew, but you know, Kaz and Tam were just doing their best to get him to race because they want to see him race. They want to see him participate in this, and you know, not to mention the platform classic comes with a 100,000 credit prize.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
So, but anyway, you know, meanwhile over at the cantina, the Guavian Death Gang shows up, and turns out Marcus owes them 20,000 credits. And so, you know, he's going to have to participate in this race. As collateral, the Death Gang takes Oplik hostage. So, okay. We have another racer that's gotten in deep by putting up their ship as collateral. Didn't we just get this story with Tam an episode or two ago?
Well, I mean, probably happens a lot, right? You know, racing for slips, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it's just we're not talking about a whole lot of racers in this show. There's the five aces. We've got Yeager now. Tam's a wannabe racer. Marcus has shown up, and there's Kaz, who doesn't have a credit to his name. And so far, the two real stories we've got about racers, background stories we have about racers, I guess 2 out of 3 if you include Yeager, both of them have fallen onto problems because they put their ship up as collateral. And so it's just kind of what was the plot line from the previous story? I mean, just like, you know, we're constantly finding Kaz breaking parts that are too expensive for him to replace on the show. Because it was just a few episodes ago where we had Kaz breaking yet another expensive component that he had no way of paying for.
Right.
And, you know, so he had to deal with the Chelde, and they've managed to fix it for him. And, you know, we've had the part that he broke on the Nymodian's ship from, you know, several episodes ago as well. So, again, it's just, you know, we're, 8 or so episodes into the show, and it just seems...
9. Or,
yeah. Well, regardless of how you count, it's not that many. The point is that we're getting... It seems like several plot elements are just getting recycled on a regular basis. And so that was just something I noticed when watching this, is that, we're the down on his luck racer is, we've seen that twice now in a very short period of time.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck working there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought at first Marcus was going to be affiliated with the First Order somehow. And that's why Yeager did not like him.
Well, yeah, and we're going to find out in just a bit exactly why it is that Yeager's so upset with him. But, so anyways, the Guavian Death Gang showing up. They want their credits. They take Oplic as a hostage to basically ensure that Marcus is going to participate in the race and not take off. To Marcus's surprise, Yeager then arrives at the cantina, announces that he's changed his mind and he is going to race.
Right.
So Marcus says, well, I'm going to go ahead and go with the race. And Yeager was counting on Marcus dropping out at this point, once he said, because he had been able to beat it in the past. But then kind of Marcus stings him with well, I've got nothing left to lose, because if you aren't going to forgive me for whatever it is that's happened in the past, then,
what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? Yeah. So there's that. And Marcus is complaining that, his mechanic is gone. And so Yeager says, well, here, take him. And he kind of shoves Kaz at him. It's my best. To which Tam immediately scoffs. It's like, what are you talking about? And Marcus and Kaz leave, and Tam's like, really, your best mechanic? And Yeager says, well, I didn't say best at what.
Yeah, so, right.
Again, poor Kaz. Yeager knows he's not a good mechanic, and it was a little unfair to insult Kaz in his family dispute with his brother.
Right. But then again, he was also kind of sabotaging his brother a little bit, Yeah,
but I don't know. It's just leave your friends out of your family dispute, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
It was my thought on that. I say that, but it is one of the things that I think helped this episode seem real. That there was this serious dispute and this serious issue between Yeager and Marcus.
Yeah.
And, Yeager is not a perfect man. He's an honorable guy, but, he would do something like this out of frustration and anger and hurt.
Yeah.
Everything else. So that was actually a pretty good story element.
And on a side note, I mean, could Doza maybe try to figure out how to, recruit a little law enforcement on the platform? I mean, you've just got basically out-and-out guys flying gang colors, walking around with the equivalent of, like, full automatic weapons, taking people hostage.
I think that kind of lends to this being the equivalent of the old West frontier town.
Yeah,
finding lawmen is not an easy task. And this is why at the end of the previous episode, he told the First Order he'd like to hear the proposal because, pirates are attacking. He had to send off his aces to deal with the escort duty of getting, some freighter shuttle, whatever it is, to the station. And it left them vulnerable because they didn't have their tracking cannons up and working. And so, as long as you're not shooting out the place and shooting at the citizens that are there, then Doza's okay with it. But, we've talked about this before. Kind of feel like Colossus is Doza's investment. This is where he's got his money, and it's a very fine line to walk, to maintain order, protect the people that are there, but at the same time, not get himself into more trouble because, I guess the other side of it is what would happen if he kicked the Guavian Death Gang members off. Would they come back with twice the numbers, triple the numbers?
Yeah, or maybe.
What would they do? So it's an interesting point.
It depends if he kicked him off the platform, like literally into the water.
Well, sure, but you really think Balatik is not going to come back to find out what happened to his guys?
Well, if he did, nobody would know who he was asking about.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's true.
So we're now at Marcus's garage, and he's trying to get Kaz to do repairs that. Kaz to do repairs that he has no idea.
Yaz an 80s synth pop band.
The problem I have on this show is that, I always want to mix up Kaz and Tam's name and Cam and, it's Star Wars names. That's what we're talking about. Exactly. I guess we should be thankful for a name like Marcus. But
it's not all just names.
That's true. But so Marcus asks Kaz to adjust something, and Kaz doesn't have clue one how to do it, but BB-8 is kind of around to help out a little bit. But while they're doing that, Marcus confides in Kaz about how, he was so desperate to beat Yeager, he once used hyperfuel, which resulted in him clipping Yeager's ship and ended up in a horrendous crash, which we're going to find out during the course of the race killed Yeager's family.
Yeah, I kind of figured that out pretty early on.
Well, I wasn't certain what it was going to be the issue between these two. And for something that was, I felt like, so directed at children in the early part of the series, or the early part of the season, this is a pretty dark turn for the series.
Yeah, this is like a stock car, like flipping into the crowd or something. You know what I mean?
It's, it'd be no surprise that something happened to Yeager's family because they're not around, and he's kind of bitter. But this whole "it's his brother's fault" thing is, wow, okay. But so it was a darker turn than I was expecting for the show. And then at the end of the day, Marcus just wants forgiveness from Yeager. So
yeah, because seriously, he wouldn't. Despite the fact that he wanted to win that badly, if he had the gift of foresight and it was like, this is the cost, of course he would not choose, you know what I mean?
Sure.
To do that. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's a story of true repentance and reconciliation with your only family. And I think that's the thing that kind of tipped me off, that's what happened. Because he said that one line to Yeager about, like, you're my last family or something. I'm not paraphrasing it correctly, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I don't remember the line, but
he kind of dropped that, like, they're the only ones left alive of the family, Yeah.
Well, the other thing about this scene is that, the hyperfuel mentioned, which is the second time this series that we've got that reference. The character that Elijah Wood voiced a couple episodes ago wanted to steal some in order to hype up his speeder to try and win a race. And of course, Kaz prevented that. But so again, we got this solo reference, to this coaxium that everyone keeps trying to use. And it just kind of makes Han and Beckett and Lando and all of them look so much better that they were the only ones that could pull this off, that they got the hyperfuel to work correctly to spruce up their ship.
Right.
But so once they're done there, Kaz returns to Yeager's garage and is trying to convince Yeager to forgive Marcus, saying, you got to, he's your brother, you got to do it. And Kaz doesn't have any siblings that we know of. So it's kind of, anyone who's got family, as far as Kaz is concerned, it's, what are you doing wasting your time being upset with them like that?
Yeah.
So finally we get to the race, and
this was fun.
Yeah, as with all the other races, we've seen two. The one that was in the first episode, and then part of the race with the episode that Elijah Wood's character was in. The speeders kind of drop out of the bottom of Colossus Station, and they got to fly through these rings. And this race had 3 phases. Phase 1 was the obstacle course, which really was the rings spinning, and they had to get through those rings while they were spinning. Right. Stage 2 was the ascent. So they had to fly up into the edge of space, and at which point they fly through a ring and an ion pulse knocks out their engine. Phase 3, they glide back down towards the planet and they go through another ring, which will reignite their engine. And so if you don't make it to that ring, you're going to crash into the ocean.
Sure.
So, you just said it was fun, but what'd you like about the race the most?
I like the mysterious Imperial pilot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy that had the tats with like the Imperial logo and everything on him.
Yeah, he's voiced by Steven Stanton, even though we haven't heard him talk yet.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool because he kind of played the foil. You know what I mean? He was like, the bad guy that's like, everybody's booing against, right? And he kind of, he basically, nobody else is taking shots at each other. He's the only one that opens up fire, and knocks one of the racers into the water. Which, and
who did we see shoot? Was it him or was it somebody else we saw shooting at another racer in the first episode of the season?
Man, I'm hard pressed to remember that at this point. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. But he knocked out one racer, and I was kind of like, the physics of that craft landing in the water, a little liberty taken there. You know what I'm saying? Because kind of the way it was angled, I was expecting it to kind of just hit and just crumple and tumble. You know what I mean? But it's okay. They pulled it out, and but yeah, that was why it was fun to me. Seeing that, and then after what happened to him, somebody else kind of took up the spot behind him. It also kind of looked very Imperial looking, in my opinion. But it was just a brief glance at him. You know what I mean? On like that leaderboard, you know, with all their pictures and everything. But yeah, so I mean, that was fun. I mean, all three phases of the game were fun, and it added for the intensity, and especially towards, you know, the end when they have to. I like how his brother kind of outwitted that Imperial pilot and figured out how to maneuver around him so that he would knock him out of the running. And of course, he ejected, a la G.I. Joe, to come back another day. You know?
Cobra.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
But then you know, they have a little reconciliation after that, right?
Yeah. Well, before we get to the reconciliation, one of the things I appreciated about the race was the fact that I really felt like they were moving a lot faster than the animation portrayed them as looking in earlier episodes of the series. I feel like there's been a lot of strides, and the style of the animation is the same, and I kind of feel like the characters have all been fine all along, but it's the ships and some of the things seem a little bit smoother. They seem a little bit more dynamic than they did when the series first started, and we're not that far away. So I don't know if it's just they got a few episodes under their belt and made some improvements along the way, but I really felt like there was some speed behind this race where I just didn't quite get that feeling early on.
Yeah,
but,
so like when they're launching out of the bay, that's where I felt it. You know what I mean? Because they were like, out, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And just, you know, some of the maneuvers they made through the rings. That's, I think, one of the issues is that so much of this planet is an ocean world, and so much of the race is just against sky and water that you don't have things in the background always for them to use as a contrast, so that you can kind of get the sense of speed about how fast they're moving. And sometimes it just looks like they're just there, floating.
Well, not only that, you don't have, again, the NASCAR effect, right? When you're watching that on TV and they're rounding the corner or something, there's camera set up, what do you hear? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Doppler effect.
Yeah, exactly. But super fast. And so you're not really going to get that unless there's like a hard surface to reflect that sound off. You know what I mean?
Well, and we also don't get a whole lot of them like leaning into their turns and reacting to the G-forces and things like that. And so
no sonic booms.
Yeah, well, it's just but I felt, I don't know, I can't put my finger on any one thing, but I just kind of felt like there was more of a sense of speed and urgency in this race. Now, it did help, as you're alluding to, you know, there was this reconciliation that comes, but there was a whole lot of pleading going on between Marcus and Yeager. You know, he wasn't buying it, and you know, but I thought, who was it that did his voice? I don't know who the actor was that did Marcus's voice, but I thought he did a fantastic job of really putting some emotion and putting some agony behind that role. You know, just pleading. That was Creston John, who I have to admit I'm not familiar with his other work.
He was in that thing.
Yeah, with that other guy.
That show,
But
a lot of people liked it.
Apparently he's been, I managed to pull up IMDb, but he's been in Avengers Assemble. He's in the new She-Ra series, World of Warcraft.
Really? Okay.
He's voiced Eric Killmonger in a Lego Marvel superheroes thing. So he's definitely got some voice experience, voice acting experience. Yeah. But he did a great job. Just, you know, he's, when he was, you know, pleading with Yeager for forgiveness and, you know, telling him, you know, like, I miss them every day. You know, his, what would be his sister-in-law and did Yeager have a daughter or a son? I can't remember.
He had one of both.
I can't remember what was in the picture because we don't actually, don't know if we ever get their names. But you know, he misses, you know, his in-laws. He misses Yeager's family as well, and he's got this incredible sense of guilt that he's carrying because of this. Yeah. And all he wants is to, you know, get that forgiveness from his brother and to be brothers again.
Oh yeah.
It was very moving. So, you know, kudos to him for a great job.
You know, I thought about too, Dennis. One of the other things that might have given you that sense of speed was when they were coming back into the atmosphere, and they were, of course, reacting to the molecules in the atmosphere and
re-entry. Yeah,
re-entry.
Yeah.
That might have added to that.
Yeah, that helped a bit. But yeah, like I said, I can't put my finger on any one thing, but there was definitely a sense of speed and a sense of there was a bit more dynamic edge to this race than what we'd seen so far. And in a show that got promoted so heavily for this racing aspect, we hadn't had that much of it. And the few times we'd had prior to this, I just wasn't getting that feeling that, check out these guys, they're fast and, making some impressive maneuvers, but this episode went a ways towards rectifying that. So as they're getting back towards the rings, Yeager's clearly out in front. Marcus concedes that he deserves to win this race, but finally something inside of Yeager melts, and he's like, nope, you need it more. And so he kind of pulls off and lets Marcus win. Marcus then collects his winnings, and he pays off the Guavian Death Gang and gets Oplok back.
Yeah.
So then they do have that final scene where Yeager says, Marcus asks him, he's like, are we good? And Yeager's like, well, no, we're not, but, we can be someday. We're better.
Baby steps.
Yeah. It's one thing to forgive somebody, but it's another to put something like that behind you. And,
sure.
Forgiveness is not always an instantaneous thing. It's something that you kind of have to, when you've been that angry with somebody for that long, it kind of takes some time to put away that baggage.
Sure, yeah.
So I could definitely see that.
To err is human, to forgive is divine.
Yeah, that's true. But then Yeager acknowledges to Kaz after Marcus is gone that he was right, and he says it's important to forgive people. When you don't, nobody wins. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to forgive people, but that was a great lesson. And that's kind of where I feel like several of these episodes of Resistance have gone, is that I don't know that this episode itself really had any long-lasting consequences for the series going forward. Maybe it'll be like some of the episodes we saw in the last season or two of Rebels, that there was something here that didn't seem consequential at the time that'll become a bigger deal later.
Sure.
But I just feel like this was much more of a self-contained story than some of the the last couple episodes we've had, with Sonara invading the station and the pirates attacking and setting up the First Order to come in and possibly take over a security or invade or whatever. This just didn't seem to really have anything to do with that story.
This was character development. I think that's
that's true, because we've had this what's up with Yeager thing going on for a while, and we had Tam's backstory in the past episode, and now we're getting a bit more of Yeager's, and
Doza knows a bit about Yeager because he knew who his brother was.
Yeah.
And they've got a history somehow.
Well, it's funny because at the beginning of the episode, when Yeager shows up in Doza's office, it's like, what last minute repairs do you need now? So, it's like, it's an interesting relationship because, I guess it speaks well of Yeager that he's got the best garage on the station and he's really got the mechanic skills, and Doza relies on him. And at the same time, when those cannons didn't have their tracking system working, Doza was beginning to lose his cool, which is like, why do I keep you around? Not so many words, but I need those cannons working now. Well, why did you send the aces off then? But we had that discussion already. But
so let me ask you this: what did you think of the ship designs? Let's start with Yeager's brother.
There was some interesting stuff about that on Stars.com. That ship was designed to look like a bit more opulent, that it came from wealth. They kind of had some muscle car motifs going into it, but some of the shininess was rubbed off to reflect the fact that Marcus has kind of fallen on hard times. But it's that same purple and black design, and in Arabesh it says Speedstar on it. So that was kind of cool, as opposed to the other thing is it had that Y-wing kind of look to it, with the cockpit set forward and the engines branching off the back. And apparently,
I felt that kind of looked like a little bit of Buck Rogers design from who's the original artist? I'm forgetting his name. Macquarie, right? I felt like it was very Macquarie-esque. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know that it was actually based off of any of Macquarie's concepts or not. But then by contrast, the Yeager's speeder was much more of a fighter craft looking vehicle.
It
was not nearly as flashy. It was for form. It was performance driven. It was not flashy. It was not there to turn heads. It was there to do something, which kind of makes me wonder what the deal is with the fireball. Because what's with this ship? Why is it even kept around at this point? Because whatever it was that Yeager was flying was a whole lot better than that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Yeager's not going to let anybody fly that ship except for him. I mean, so far.
Well, and the other thing about the fireball is it's in the Resistance logo, and we've seen it fly once, I think, at this point. And otherwise, it's been a hunk of junk that's fallen apart a number of times. They've been working on it for several episodes now. I get the feeling that, towards the end of this season, we're going to get a moment where it gets wheeled out and, that's the other thing. If you go look at the episode guide and the art, they have a speeder helmet for Tam.
Really?
That's got fireballs on the lower part of the helmet. So I can't, so who's going to get to fly, Kaz or her? This series is not going exactly where I thought it would.
Sure.
Because like I said earlier, it's just, it seemed like it was really billed to be about these racers on this platform, and the First Order and the Resistance were kind of going to be in the backdrop of this thing. But it has become much more political. It's become much more about the state of galactic affairs.
A lot of intrigue
going on. So, and I'm glad that aside from this episode, the series overall has kind of started answering questions and moving the plot forward as opposed to just set up.
So something you mentioned real quick, like sparked something in my brain. Fireball. You know what I mean? It's like, what is the whole like Rebel Alliance based on? Like their logo?
The Phoenix,
which is a fire
bird,
right? I mean, what if there's like a long-term kind of, I don't know, what's the literary term? Allegory? Illusion between this ship and the rise of the Resistance out of the ashes of the rebels. I
suppose.
I don't know. I'm just theorizing.
That could be some interesting symbolism. That could be an interesting connection.
Thank you.
It's the fireball looks kind of like an X-wing.
Yeah.
So there's always that potential.
And a bird.
But the Resistance has been around. This is not. It is a thing. So it's not a perfect symbol, I suppose. But there's still a lot of things to happen yet in this series. I don't even know how many more episodes we've got for this season at this point. If it's a full season of 23 episodes or something shorter, or what's going to happen. I know we've got episodes for at least the next couple weeks, and then I think they take a winter break. But one last thing from this episode at the end. Kaz is kind of celebrating that. Oh, see, Yeager and I are becoming friends, and BB-8 tweets out something like to the effect of, I don't think so. And then Kaz is like, well, we're friends, and then BB-8 like tweets something that Kaz interprets as a denial, and it's like, well, at least we're acquaintances. And then like BB-8's rolling off, shaking his head. I was like, okay, this is harsh. Is BB-8 messing with Kaz, or what is going on here?
I think he is. That's why I took with him, because he's like, oh, at least we're buddies, and BB-8's just like rolling off, shaking his head. No.
Yeah, the most literal character on the station is Niku. He takes everything. He's subtlety is completely lost on him when. Kaz said he wondered what the First Order was doing on the station episodes ago.
Yeah.
Hello, First Order. My friend Kaz wants to know what you were doing here. The next most literal person is Kaz on this. It was like when Flix and Orca were talking about the that chip that they need. Is like, oh yeah, we got a whole bunch of those and a box full of kyber crystals. And Kaz is like, wow, you got all that stuff. Really? It's like the sarcasm stuff is kind of lost on him. So I hope you're right. I hope it was BB-8 just messing with him. But I had a hard time telling when I watched that part of the episode.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, I think we've kind of covered everything on this, so it's that time. What's your final thoughts and grade for this episode?
I'm going to give this a B+. Actually, you know what? Strike that. I'm going to give it an A. It had me a little more in tune, I guess, this time around. You're right. There's a little more intrigue building. There's a little more backstory, the whole history between everybody. Forming. The action was a lot better, I guess you'd say. The Guavian Death Gang looked great. I mean, the animation for them, that I was like, wow, that looks really good. You know, when they came on scene. You know, it's like we discussed before, you know, say what you like about the way the flesh and bone people look. This animation style gets the non-organic right. You know what I mean? It looks really good in my opinion. You're starting to get familiar with the faces and the voices, and they're interacting a lot easier. You know what? It was a fun episode. The race was great. The race was fun. So yeah, solid A. I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah, for me, I appreciated the backstory that we got on Yeager and Marcus. I thought the ships were awesome. They're one of the best things about this series. There was a lot of improvement in the quality of the race and the speed factor that we were talking about earlier. I think what did we say his name? Kristen John did such an amazing job as Marcus, especially in that scene during the race when he was pleading with Yeager for forgiveness. That was an incredible performance. I liked what Kaz did when he was trying to convince Yeager to forgive his brother. And all these individual elements, I give A's, but the sum of the episode just was not greater than the parts, and I don't even think it was the equal of the parts. So I'm going to give the episode a B. Okay. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of great parts to the episode, but there's just something about when you put them all together, it's just lacking something at the end of the episode. I'm like, where it's just like, yeah, that was great. You know, Rebels always did such a great job with that. You had a lot of great parts, and then the sum was better than the parts. I just kind of feel like we have all these great things, and there's a lot of lore. I mean, I love the reference to Bloodline with the Five Sabers, and I love the hyperfuel reference. And, you know, they even, there was a reference to Rishi, you know, the Rishi maze from the Attack of the Clones. And, you know, the Guavian Death Gang showing up. There's, you know, all this pulling in from all the other sources, and it didn't seem forced. It seemed like everything was in the galaxy, and I love all that stuff. I love the world building they're doing here with that, you know, drawing from these elements from other places. It's just at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know if it's just like the pacing or the way all these things are tied together and the final editing or what it is. It's just that there's something that just is not making the overall story just seem like a home run. So again, like I said, a lot of A elements to this, but the final product I give a B. And I am enjoying it. This series has come a long way from those first couple episodes where I wanted to kick Kaz off the station and you know, fall in the ocean, but he's growing on me a little bit.
By the way, funny moment of the show is when he accidentally slaps the little droid in the back.
Oh yeah, the pit droid falls over onto the ocean.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our discussion of the Platform Classic. Before we go, what do you have coming up this week, Taxus?
Let's see. Can't remember if we're going to release a Geek Supreme this week, but I know definitely next week we will, and that's one everybody's going to want to definitely tune in for. Because there's going to be some strong G.I. Joe references.
Cobra!
Yes, exactly. A lot of ejecting as the ship is blowing up and there's no shrapnel ripping across your back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, as for Jay, if you want to find out more about what she's up to, you can go head over to Coffee with Kenobi and find her blogs and her fashion reviews. There hasn't been a lot of stuff there new, but she is planning to get back into that soon. As for me, you can find my comic reviews on retrozap.com, and each month I am talking Star Wars comics with Jovial J. Shepard on Jedi Journals. For December, we were talking the Lando Double or Nothing comic, which is a lot of fun, so check out that discussion when you get the chance. If you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/SQpod. You can email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. Jay is at Joyce Krebs, and I am at DJKVER2. Speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. The network currently features more than a dozen shows covering everything from retro gaming and movies to the Animaniacs, collecting, Dune, Game of Thrones, and of course a whole lot of Star Wars. Subscribe to the network feed and you can get all the shows in one place. That'll do it for this Scoundrels Special Edition. We'll talk to you soon with another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.